You are tuned in to Fitness and Consciousness. Today's episode is called The Space Between. I normally name my episodes after they've been completed. If I have a guest on, I'm often, might be surprised at what we talk about. And whatever the case is, I normally just name them afterwards. But this one, I came up with the name, I think it was just when I was talking in one of my last couple podcasts. So I came up with the name, The Space Between. And then as I started working on it, my idea at first was I'm going to talk about the space between thoughts. And it's going to be this show about Zen, how to quiet the mind and what we can gain from those spaces between thoughts. And then as I started working on it more, then it became the space between words also. It's like words that we speak out loud. And then it became the space between relationships. And so that might be the time in between one relationship and your next. It might be the space between the two people that are in the relationship. And so as I kept working on it more and writing out the outline, it became different than what I originally wanted to do. But sometimes these things kind of take on a life of their own, and this is what has to come out. This is where I am now, and this is what it kind of came to be. So I don't even know everything that I'm going to be talking about. It's kind of the current state of where I am. And when I was planning on it, I was looking at some song lyrics. So obviously the space between, I knew that as a Dave Matthews song. And I knew the song, I heard it a bunch of times, but I couldn't tell you what the lyrics were. So then I looked up the lyrics, and this is them. The space between, Dave Matthews. You cannot quit me so quickly. Is no hope in you for me. No corner you could squeeze me, but I've got all the time for you, love. The space between, the tears we cry, is the laughter keeps us coming back for more. The space between, the wicked lies we tell to keep us safe from the pain. Will I hold you again? These fickle, fuddled words confuse me, like will it rain today? We waste the hours with talking. These twisted games we're playing. We're strange allies with warring hearts. What a wild-eyed beast you be. The space between. The wicked lies we tell that hope to keep us safe from the pain. Look at us spinning out in the madness of a roller coaster. You know you went off like the devil in the church in the middle of a crowded room. All we can do, my love, is hope we don't take this ship down. The space between, where you smile and hide, is where you'll find me if I get to go. The space between, the bullets in our firefight, is where I'll be hiding, waiting for you. The rain that falls, splashed in your heart, ran like sadness down the window into your room. The space between our wicked lies is the hope to keep us safe from pain. Take my hand, because we're walking out of here. Right out of here is all we need, dear. The space between what's wrong and right is where you'll find me hiding, waiting for you. The space between your heart and mind is the space we'll fill with time. The space between the tears we cry is the laughter keeps us coming back for more. The space between our wicked lies where we hope to keep safe from the pain. The Space Between, The Space Between. And it was written by Glenn Ballard and Dave Matthews. So I read that and I was like, I remembered some of the lyrics before I looked it up. And I read it and it was like, oh, great. Is this what the show's going to be about? I'm not going to be getting that vulnerable, am I? I don't think I mentioned it yet, but I just got home a little bit ago from climbing this pine tree I go to. It's pretty easy to climb up high. And I got to, I don't know, maybe like 30 feet or so today. And I was, just kind of getting my thoughts together for this show because I'm going to be talking about women that I've been with, my ex-partners. And I think I'll talk about at least 3 of them. And so I'm up there. So I get up in the tree and I start climbing up, and I got a new hip pack. And because I don't like having stuff in my pants pockets, and whether I'm just like walking around the woods or I don't really like having stuff in my pockets, and if I'm climbing and the stuff in my pockets is in the way. So I got a new hip pack, not, just a few weeks, however long ago it was, a week or so. And I only wore it once. And so I'm climbing the tree and I have my stuff in my hip pack, and then it's a pine tree and it gets, sap smeared on it, and in my pants they get sap on them, and then my hands, they got sap on them, and like, part of me is like, why am I doing this? I'm getting, sap all over my stuff. And then I keep climbing and climbing, and I get to about 30 feet, and I take the obligatory video for Instagram, and I'm like swaying around because it's getting kind of windy, and I'm thinking, oh, I should probably get down. This is kind of silly to be up here swaying around in this tree. I'm almost 40 years old. Why am I doing this? But I stayed up there, and I probably sat in the tree for about 45 minutes or so. And the branches that I'm on, I'm sitting with my back to the tree. I can feel the trunk moving. So my spine is up against the tree, the trunk, and we're spinning around, or swaying around. And I can see, I'm kind of like straddling 2 branches, and I can see out from the branches they're swaying around even a lot more than the trunk. So I'm always going on like what I call like these vision quests, and I'm trying to get some sort of message from nature. And I see, okay, as long as I kind of just like stay close to the trunk, the source, kind of, right, then I'll be fine. But if I go out on a limb, if I go too far out on the limb, I'd fall, because it's not going to hold me. It's a pine tree. So up by the trunk, it's strong. And any of the limbs, you get out too far and you're going down for sure. But they sway in the breeze. They bend. They don't break. And so maybe I'll dig a little bit more into that later. But everything has this metaphorical meaning to me. So it's like I just can't like walk through the woods and get a little exercise or something. There's all these lessons all over the place. But the other day when as I was planning out this podcast, and I knew the song "The Space Between," this other song popped into my mind, and it's a song that all I knew, again, was pretty much the title, and I couldn't tell you really any of the other words to it. And And I thought, well, I'll check it out and I'll read that on the show. And it's called "To All the Girls I've Loved Before." I knew it as a Willie Nelson song. He didn't write it. When I get to the bottom of it, I'll tell you who wrote it. To all the girls I've loved before, who traveled in and out my door, I'm glad they came along. I dedicate this song to all the girls I've loved before. To all the girls I once caressed, and may I say I've held the best, for helping me to grow. I owe a lot, I know, to all the girls I've loved before. The winds of change are always blowing, and every time I tried to stay, the winds of change continued blowing, and they just carried me away. To all the girls who shared my life, who now are someone else's wife, I'm glad they came along. I dedicate this song to all the girls I've loved before. To all the girls who cared for me, who filled my nights with ecstasy, they live within my heart. I'll always be a part of all the girls I've loved before. The winds of change are always blowing, and every time I tried to stay, the winds of change continued blowing, and they just carried me away. To all the girls we've loved before, who traveled in and out our door, we're glad they came along. We dedicate this song to all the girls we've loved before. To all the girls we've loved before, who traveled in and out our doors, we're glad they came along. We dedicate this song to all the girls we've loved before. It was written by Albert Hammond and Hall David. So I knew the title to it, and then I read it, and it's like, man, this is what the show's going to be about. I want to talk about like Zen and the space between thoughts, and I'm this like Zen master, yoga, and guru. I have these no, I don't fancy myself any of those really, but I was wanting to talk about one thing. And then as I started making out my outline, I realized, okay, this is kind of how I'm getting to that. So there will be things that I address directly. And I'm probably not going to talk about like meditation and in that way, the space between words and thoughts. But as I talk about this relationship stuff, this is all true story, happened to me. I think it can kind of convey a similar message. So I'm not trying to be this teacher. I'm just a guy sharing his experience, and so there was this it was kind of like a TED talk, and I had, but it's called Walk the Talk, and I had a tryout. Well, I was scheduled for this tryout, and it would be to read a story, and it was on signs and synchronicities. So this is right down my alley. I'm like, okay, I got this. And the girlfriend I was with at the time, sorry, I'm going to turn my phone down. I keep getting these messages. The girlfriend I was with at the time, at first we were going to do this thing together, and then she encouraged me to do it myself. And then, well, what happened was, so I wrote it out, and this is pretty much how it goes. I'm not going to be reading off, but this is pretty much how it went. So I was going to name it The Path of the Feather. And that was after a book that my dad gave me. And he died in 2005. But when I was a little kid, from the time I was a little kid, my dad would take me to these like state parks in southern Indiana and other places, and he was always trying. He was always a big fan of woodpeckers. He liked woodpeckers, and he could see them from far away, very very far away. And he would try to point them out to me. So we'd be like in the forest, in the hills somewhere in southern Indiana, Brown County State Park and Yellowwood, and he'd see or hear a woodpecker, and he would try to point it out to me, and I couldn't see it. I could never see him. And I don't know why I couldn't see them, but I couldn't. So, and that lasted all the way. We were going to these same parks up until I was in my 20s. Up until not too long before he died, really. And the day after he died, I had some friends over training martial arts, and we were outside talking. When we finished, we were in my driveway, and there was this bird on my fence, and I'm trying to talk to my buddies, and this bird kept demanding my attention. I kept looking over at this bird, and I'm trying to focus on my buddies, and I kept looking over at this bird. And finally I asked, "What kind of bird is that?" And my buddy Mike said, "That's a woodpecker." I'm like, oh. So it blew my mind, and I ended up losing my job the day after my dad's funeral. And I had nothing better to do, I guess, than watch this tree. I had a big pine tree in my front yard, and I got woodpecker suet, and I would put peanut butter and on the tree. I just like smear peanut butter on the tree, and I got all kinds of bird food and feeders, and this tree became like the Grand Central Station for woodpeckers and all kinds of birds. I mean, it was amazing, all the different kinds of birds that were coming there, and including like the big pileated woodpeckers, like Woody Woodpecker, who I used to watch that when I was a kid, the cartoon with my dad, and found out that the woodpecker that I saw on my fence was a red-bellied woodpecker. And then I became the one that can see the woodpeckers from far away. I'd go out to those same woods with my dad, Brown County State Park, and all over, and I'd see just like a little flicker hundreds of feet away. I'm like, oh, look at the woodpecker. And I would be able to point them out and show my kids, and they knew what it meant. And I was with I think what I'll do, like instead of like saying the girlfriend's names, maybe I'll just say the first letter of their name, and then you can kind of make up a name. And I don't know if they would really care if I said them, but there might be a kind of a fine line between what's private and, telling thousands and thousands of people all over the world about the story. And I guess if you know me and you know who they are, then it doesn't matter. And if you don't know us personally, then it doesn't matter anyways. But I think I'll use just the first letter of their name, and then you can just make up a name. So the last serious girlfriend I had, her name started with an E, so I'll just call her E. So we had not been dating very long, and we went to this park where she would run And I used to go there with my dad, and I buried my dog there with my dad. Not really supposed to do that, but we did that anyway. And I described the tree that we buried my dog to E. And I said, let's see if you can find this tree. And it's a pretty big park, and it's a lot of woods. And so I kind of like get her in the general direction, general area, and she starts walking down the path. And I don't even know what made me wonder if she could find this tree. Like it just was something that popped into my mind. Like, let's see if you can find this tree in the woods. And so she started walking down the path, and I was following her a few steps behind. And we get to a part where you have to turn left or right. And she said, left. I said, yep. And we're walking for another 10 minutes or so. And we hear this pileated woodpecker from across the river call really loud. And she stopped. She was still a few steps ahead of me. And she stopped when she heard the woodpecker. And she looked over towards the woodpecker across the river. And then she turned around really fast and pointed to this tree behind her. And she said, "Is that it?" And I said, "Yes, that's it." And that was it. That was the tree where my dad and I buried my dog so many years before. I think my dog died in like 2003 or something like that. And she picked out the tree in the forest after hearing the woodpecker. It's like, what are the odds of that? So is that a sign? What is that a sign of? And, part of the show that I was, working on was, okay, so that was real. That happened. I'm not exaggerating any of it. And so is that a sign that her and I were meant to be together or to stay together? Was that just a sign that there's more to this world than what we can see? Is it just my dad saying, here we are, and isn't this amazing? Or was it just a coincidence that she could pick out one tree out of a million, however many are there? And it just happens to be when a woodpecker called, and it wasn't like she took a few more steps or walked around. I mean, she stopped when she heard the woodpecker immediately, turned around, and she could have touched the tree. It was right there. And her and I broke up on good terms. There's no hard feelings even today. And so I'm not trying to make her sound bad or anything like that. This is just the reality. But she broke up with me 5 minutes before my birthday by text. And my birthday was April 27th. And today is December 3rd, I think. December 2nd. It's my other dog's birthday. She died too. But, anyways, E broke up with me, and so it was 11:55 p.m. on April 26th, and I get this message from her, and I'm thinking maybe she just wants to be the first to wish me happy birthday or something like that, and it was like she was saying, it's not going to work out. But I wasn't even upset. I had like this image in my mind, this of balloons being set free for whatever reason. I almost thought it was kind of funny. Well, the day before, or well, I guess it was that day, on April 26th, the day before my birthday, I got this email from a yoga studio. I think I won't say which one. Yeah, I won't say which one. But I got an email from a yoga studio offering me a free class for my birthday. And the first time I went to this yoga studio, and this is where I might get into saying things that I shouldn't say, but I'm going to anyways. Hopefully, people involved don't mind too much. It's true. It's all true. And that's why I'm just going to use the letters of names. But whoever knows this will be able to figure it out probably anyways. So I was with my girlfriend at that time, and she was a yoga teacher. She still is, I think. And this was maybe 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And we went to this yoga workshop together, this like Iyengar workshop. And we met. She introduced me to one of her friends there. And like when we were inside, it was just like, okay. And, we were all training beside each other. And I didn't really think a whole lot of it. And then when the class was over, we went out, and my girlfriend, call her L. real mysterious here. I don't know if people are gonna freak out or not, but this is gonna be news to some people, I think. But we were out in the, kind of like entrance, and she was talking to some friends, and then the friend that she introduced me to, call her A, she asked me if I wanted to go outside and wait. I said, sure. And at that moment, I didn't really think anything of it, because L was just talking to some friends, and that's fine. And so we went outside, and when we made eye contact, we just looked into each other's eyes and didn't say anything for, I don't know how long it was. It was a while though. And I was thinking, wow, is she the one? And I don't remember exactly whatever happened after that, but neither one of us said anything. And then my girlfriend comes out, and we went home, or whatever we did. And her friend and I never said anything. We never acted on it. We never said anything to anyone about this instance. I mean, all it was, we just looked at each other for a while on one level, right? Well, Elle, my girlfriend at that time, had told me that there was another friend of hers that she thought I would be perfect for. And she never told me who it was. And so you fast forward. So Elle and I were together for about 2 years. And we broke up a little over 3 years ago I think 3 years ago. And so when I got that email for that free yoga class, well, the friend of hers that she introduced me to is a teacher at that school. And I thought, well, I'm going to check out her class. And then I was looking at some other classes there because I was like kind of having this, a little bit of an internal struggle about that, and, telling myself these different stories. I ended up sending her a message, and it's like, oh, I'm thinking about trying out these different classes. This is what I'm looking for. What do you recommend? And I I intentionally described her way. And her message back was me, ? LOL. And so I, found out when her classes were, and I went to one. And she sent me a message after the class, and just kind of asked me how I felt about it, and I said I really liked it, and I did. She's a good teacher, and we kind of got to texting back and forth. And she said, "Well, I'd like to talk to you about this stuff in person." And so we met the next day. And we ended up hanging out, and we realized that we both felt the same way that day, that when we met at the workshop 4 years ago or whatever it was, we both had the same kind of feeling. She said she was like, uh-oh, this could be a problem, because she was such good friends with my girlfriend at the time. Like I said, neither one of us ever acted on it. Nothing happened. And my girlfriend at that time, which ended up telling me, was she told her about me. When she told her about me, she was telling her that I was perfect for her. And she had kind of told me that she was perfect for me, but she didn't say who it was. And so, and A was the assertive one. I wasn't trying to like press anything. I was opening to something happen, but she was the one that was like, okay, yeah, let's do this. It's on. Let's see what happens. And I had just gotten out of this relationship that I was in for like 8 months at that time, something like that, with E. And so it was like this weird timing, and it was like so close. And so I went to the cemetery, and where I kind of go on these vision quests, and I just kind of walk around and like, is this the right thing to do? In, just processing everything. And I see a woodpecker, and, it gives me all the signs that I'm hoping to see. It just I mean, yeah, it was just a woodpecker, but still, I told myself the story that I wanted to hear about it. And at that same time, she knew about woodpeckers, what the woodpeckers meant at that point. And I think that same day, yeah, it was that same day, she was at a park with her son, and he pointed out a woodpecker to her, and she said that and when she was telling me that, she said she never sees them. And when I was at the cemetery, I got a message from the girl that had just broke up with me a week before. And so I told her what was happening. And because I'll be honest, I mean, whether people are going to like it or not, um, they can count on me being honest. I've never cheated on a girlfriend, and if I've never, I don't think I've ever even, yeah, I've never broke up with one girl to go out with another girl. And so I was just like honest with her, and she was shocked by what was happening, because it was so soon, and the timing was weird. You know, the same day you break up with me, it's the same day I get this email for a free yoga class. That's then I can get the class from this, you know, yoga teacher that I kind of had in the back of dormant somewhere in my mind for a few years, and found out she felt the same way. It's crazy. So back to the walk the talk. I started out telling the story about the woodpecker, and then so it gets to be about this time where my tryouts are just a week away, and so I'm rewriting it because I had to add this next thing, and then by the time, so I'm asking A about it, because and she's like, yeah, do what you want. And I'm like, I'm going to be up in front of 400 people. This is going to get thousands of views on YouTube. Are you sure you want me to do this? And then I kind of came to the conclusion that no, don't do it. And so I didn't do it, and I was glad I didn't do it, because then by that time, A and I were not really seeing each other. It was kind of like this strange thing of like, yeah, this seems like it's perfect, and then it seems like, no, don't bother, and then it seems like it's perfect again, and then maybe, and then, so as of now, uh, it's a no, just friends. But what about all the signs? What do we do with these signs? What are they signs of? And we see these signs, and it's like all this stuff seems to fit together, and stuff is beyond chance, beyond reason, and then things end up working out differently. Um, and what happens when the person that you think you're getting these signs of doesn't go along with what the what the signs say? It's odd, but I can say that the the few girls I've mentioned, it's not like I'm dating a lot of women. So like I sent when I'm talking about a few of them, it's not like I'm constantly juggling all these women or anything like that. I sent my walk the talk tryout. I sent a video and the printed out version to E, the one that broke up with me right before my birthday. Like, this is what I'm doing. You can let me know what you think. And I'm open to changing my mind, and she didn't care. But then, yeah, it just didn't seem like the thing to do. I lost my train of thought there. Um, so we're the space between the relationships. So like that kind of happened all fast. And what I was going to say before I lost my train of thought was all these things, all these relationships have ended in a positive way, that I can still talk to any of them. And it hasn't been that long since I have, and not in a way that's like trying to get back together or trying to different circumstances that I won't mention publicly like this. But and so I can take that as a good sign, because I was good to all of them, and they were good to me too, and it just didn't keep going, and that's okay. Uh, so the space between, it's like the last relationship and now, I it gives us time, or the space between other relationships, it gives us time to maybe look at what we were ignoring before. So I have a tendency to want things to work. I'm not just looking for problems. If someone is, has some qualities that I think are in line with my own, uh, I have the tendency to want to make it work, and I'm not looking for reasons to complain. And if there is these things to complain about, which of course there always will be things to complain about, I usually just ignore it, don't say anything about it, and just keep moving on. And but when there's that space between one and the next, or it it gives us time to look at maybe the things that we were ignoring before. So instead of like where I am now at this moment, December 2nd, and I'm not looking back and having any hard feelings, and I'm not looking back and wishing any of them worked out any way other than what they did. The slate has been kind of like wiped clean, or like it's just a new chapter, and I don't have hard feelings, and I don't have thinking like I should have or could have, or because the things that we're pointing out, it's like the one that broke up with me right before my birthday, when we had our first date, and between our first date and second, we had the second date planned, and then this other friend of mine who I haven't mentioned yet, like I met her on a dating app, and then we ended up being friends, and it seemed like we might be like more than friends, and we're like, and I can't like date more than one woman at a time. And so I broke the second date with because of this other woman. It's like I don't know what's going on, but I can't date more than one woman at a time, and I don't know what else to do, but I can't date more than one woman at a time, even though this other woman and I were just like barely any. I mean, nothing physical was really happening. Like we'd be watching a movie, and like she'd kick her feet up on my lap. Well, and that was about it at that time. I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, whatever it means, I need to figure it out before I have something else going on. And then that went away, and E and I started to see each other again. And so we both rejected each other on more than one occasion. And moving on. Her and I met on Bumble, actually, and it's this dating app where the woman has to send the first message. And when I was on there, like recently, I'm even on there now, but when I'm like scrolling through Bumble, this, the dating app, it's like a different world. Like there's so much, almost a very high percentage of women start off with what kind of alcohol they like to drink. Oh, craft beer enthusiast, wine lover, bourbon this and whiskey that. And it's in like often within the first few words, they're talking about what kind of alcohol they like to drink. And, how many of them will say like, feed me tacos and tell me I'm pretty. There's a bunch of them that say that exact thing, or just feed me and tell me I'm pretty. And tacos this and tacos that, and what this kind of alcohol and that. It's really weird. And another thing is polyamory, like being able to have like these, what they call monogamous, ethical non-monogamous relationships. And I'm not interested in any of that at all. And so it's just kind of, it's kind of like a sad sort of state. I mean, this is what people are leading with. Like, hi, my name is Ryan. This is the kind of stuff I like to get drunk off of. What kind of sense? I mean, it's weird. And there's all these pictures of these women, and they're getting, so many of them are at a bar, or they're at some party and they're holding a glass of wine, or they're drinking this giant margarita, or they're drinking a beer. And I remember from this book that my mom got me, I might have been like 10 years old, Life's Little Instruction Book. And it said, never be photographed holding a cocktail. And I don't know if I even remember any of the other, but I mean, it was like well before I even was drinking, like in high school or anything, something like that, which I guess I started, I mean, maybe before then, have like some kind of drink. But so like before it was even really a thing for me, I remembered never get your photograph holding a cocktail. But so many of these women on these dating apps, I'm only on one, and I'm barely into it. But it's like, why are they doing that? And I guess what I'm looking for is like more like meaning. And meaning is something that I might do a whole show on, or meaning that was going to be kind of woven into my shows. I guess in a way they all are. Meaning is weaved through all of them. I mean, what else would be the point? But there's this like meaning over happiness. It's like some people are saying, that they just want to be happy. And I'm not an unhappy person, but I'm also not usually just filled with joy and I'm not unhappy, and I'm not like super happy. I'm pretty level for the most part. But the meaning, I have that. I can't even climb a tree without getting, all these lessons and meaning out of it. And I look at what, like, a lot of these young people or these relationships that are polyamorous, open relationships. And no, I was thinking, what's that all about? And maybe like when someone is younger and they don't have kids, I was kind of thinking about, the opposite of what's usually good advice. Like, well, don't have kids when you're too young. That makes things tough. But now having a daughter who's almost 21 years old and a son who's almost 18, and I look back at the way I could have gone. Now I'm thinking is like, maybe one of the best things you can do is to have kids when you're really young, because people need meaning. And a lot of times when people are depressed or suicidal, they think there's like, they have this like existential angst. There's no meaning to anything. But if you have kids, it gives you something to work for. And I know there's plenty of parents that are not very good, but there's a lot of people who, okay, well, once they have kids, they know that's their cue to turn their life around and do the right thing. And it wasn't like I was a bad person before kids, but and they but having my daughter, just before I turned 19, definitely gave me a meaning to do something different. And that was, so I was working a lot. And so it gives me, had to pay child support, and which was fine. I didn't mind doing that all, of course. But so I had to work. I lived by myself. So I had these bills to pay, and so our meaning can maybe best come from our responsibility. Something outside of ourselves. If there's just me and I can just do whatever I want and have fun and live whatever kind of life I want. Do you really want that? Do you just want to have fun? I mean, that might sound kind of crazy well, yeah, just having fun sounds like fun. But what kind of meaning do you have? And so when I'm like studying guys like Jordan Peterson, and I learned about Viktor Frankl from him, who was a Holocaust survivor, talking about meaning and responsibility through that meaning. So if you have this responsibility, you can, that's how you live your full life. Like the meaning of life, well, it's a life with meaning. And what is meaning? Well, it's some kind of responsibility outside of yourself, beyond just yourself. And so if you're depressed, and this isn't just my thinking, this is something that I've been learning about through Peterson and Frankl, was if you're depressed, take on more responsibility. I don't know what that, that can mean different things for different people, but maybe that means you're going to, do some kind of charity, or you're going to adopt a child, or you're going to, it's going to mean different things for different people. I think I will start to wrap this up now, and I didn't have real exact way to end this, but the cycle of trying, so when we're in this relationship and we get used to just like wanting to make it work, and somebody breaks up with the other, and then the other rejects the other coming back, and then they end up together. We get it like in this cycle of trying. And when I was up in that tree today, and I get up there, I'm swaying around, and when I first got up there and I made my obligatory Instagram video, I was thinking, man, I should get down. And then I kind of got more used to it. Okay, go ahead. I have my balance. Yes, it's windy and I'm swaying around, but I'm fine. I just have to be mindful, and but after a while, it was just time to get down. I can't stay up there forever. So it's when we're in these relationships, like at what point do we just stick it out, like decide this is the person I'm going to be with, get married and stay together, thick and thin, better or for worse, richer or poorer, all that kind of thing. And then other times it's like, this person kind of sucks, I'm out of here. Or that other person looks kind of good, or this person has these flaws, and all I can see is these flaws, and look at what they're not. We make up these images, we make up these ideals, and then when we're with someone, I think this is something that I'm actually pretty good at, is just appreciating someone for what they are, who they are, and not comparing them to some ideal that I made up in my mind. But some people are more like that, their partner isn't fitting this ideal that they made up. So that causes a lot of problems. Oh, you're not enough of this. You're too much of that. And maybe that's okay. And, I guess finding that balance of, what do we want? And what is the meaning behind what we're doing? And, we certainly don't need to stay in something that we don't want. And I've seen a lot of couples that they pick at each other. There's somebody makes green beans and ask what their partner thinks, like, oh, it has too much pepper. Oh, it has too much pepper. And then there's a whole thing about the pepper. They're arguing about pepper. Or they're like just picking at each other. And who wants to be with someone that just points out everything that's wrong with you every day? But I think I will leave it at that. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope it kind of made sense to everyone, and I hope people aren't too bothered about what I let loose. I don't think I said anything too bad. I didn't make anything up. It was all true. And my next episode will be, well, I'll talk about that later. Thank you for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.